gentlemen, it's time for our first panel discussion of the day. Topic being research and development, future-proofing FMCG, anticipating market disruptions through research and development excellence. This session will provide valuable insights and practical strategies for FMCG companies, D2C brands, startups to leverage research and development as a powerful tool for anticipating and navigating market disruptions, untimely driving sustainable growth and success in an ever-changing landscape. I would like to invite on stage a moderator for this session, Dr. Prabodh Halde, Head Regulatory Affairs, Marico Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him with a huge round of applause. He has a rich 30 years of invaluable industry experience. Dr. Prabodh's commitment to nurturing entrepreneurship is evident through his mentorship of numerous food startups. A seasoned trainer, he has conducted extensive training programs, having educated over 6,000 food safety officials in the last 16 years. Wow, that is fabulous. In this session, Dr. Prabodh will be sharing his wealth of knowledge and insights on navigating the dynamic landscape of food safety and regulatory compliance. Now, I would like to invite our esteemed panelist on stage, Dr. Kriti Soni, Global Head Research and Development, Dr. Vaidyas. A very, very warm welcome to Dr. Kriti. Dr. Kriti brings a wealth of knowledge and experience. Her contributions to the field have earned her recognition as a speaker at numerous national as well as international conferences. And in this session, along with others, we will explore the dynamic intersection of consumer trends and research and development in product innovation. Once again, a warm, warm welcome to you. Thank you. Our next esteemed panelist, ladies and gentlemen, also our chief guest, Punita Kalra. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause. CEO, Research and Innovation, Corporate Quality Assurance in Mami Limited. A distinguished professional in the fast-moving consumer care industry. She brings unparalleled expertise and strategic vision to the discussion. With over 27 years of experience, she has made significant contributions to research, innovation, and strategy. Her leadership has led to the development of disruptive formulations and brand architectures that have redefined industry standards. Once again, a huge round of applause and a warm welcome to her. I can't hear the claps. Come on. Next, I would like to invite on stage Amit Sardar, Managing Director, Soulflower. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for him, please. With a visionary approach, Mr. Sardar introduced Soulflower to cater to wellness-conscious consumers specialized in natural oils. His journey from a teenage entrepreneur to an e-commerce pioneer has expanded Soulflower's national presence. He serves as a board member of prestigious organizations, including the World Trade Center, Mumbai. Once again, a warm welcome to him. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite on stage Vilas Shirhati, Technical Director, Natural India Private Limited, Max Protein. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause. With an impressive academic background along with 10 years of research in reputed institutes, Vilas brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to this discussion. He has developed several new products and manufacturing technologies that have been successfully launched in this market. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause for our entire esteemed panelists on stage? Dr. Prabodh, over to you.
Thank you. And how much time we have?
We have 45 minutes,
45
1:15.
minutes. Okay, so we are in between the lunch and the...
Yeah.
So friends, first thank you for this a great session, and this is opening session, that first technical session, and all my panelists together, they carry more than 200 years of experience. And I'm telling you, though the number of people who are in the audience are less, but whoever is going to get benefit is really will be something you will cherish forever. I can guarantee you this session. Because when we did a practice in the speaker launch, I could realize that how much the experience they are bringing on the table. Friends, this particular today's session, the panel discussion, the theme is how R&D is contributing into the FMCG's growth, how they are making a disruption, research and development. In India, particularly after COVID, you must have seen so many new products have actually hit the shelf. Whenever there is any kind of crisis are coming, and when there is any kind of disturbances in the society, the research comes to the rescue. How many we, if you remember, before COVID, have done the online meetings? Very few. But today the online is normal, thanks to the COVID, which is a disruption. Most of the patent, Amit ji and Dr. Vilas, most of the patents they actually got during the First and Second World War. Again because of the war, because of the crisis. So this is the theme, and I got a fantastic panel. I will not introduce again because 45 minutes is a very less time. Unfortunately, FMCG business spends around 2 to 3% of their revenue on the research and development, which is far, far below than the industries like pharma plus 10%, automobile 8 to 12%, IT plus 10%. This area, research and development, needs more investment so we can attract good talent, good resources, and long-term research output. Many people get mistaken research and development with a simple analytical laboratory or connect and develop or product development. R&D is actually of three types. It is not only long term, but it is a short term also. But mere analytical method is not the research. Research is something when you get outcome. With this opening, I now ask all my panelists to speak about the theme and with your wealth of experience. And by the way, all my panelists are so experienced. Vilas sir is like, I was just naming them, Amitabh Bachchan of the industry, because he has been, when we were the kids, was in the research and 40 plus year experience in the R&D and spent the time with the Godrej, Tata's, Marico, Hindustan Lever, and GI, and so many areas he touched and changed the life of the many organizations, including mine, because I got recruited by him only in the Marico, and I was not aware about the regulatory, and he forced me to join the regulatory when I was not aware, and I also bet it, and then today it's whatever. Thank you, Dr. Vilas. So just 30 seconds to 1 minute on the opening remark on the topic. So start with the Dr. Vilas, and then we'll go accordingly.
Good morning to all. First of all, I would like to thank the CPML organizers to giving me this opportunity. And thank you, Prabodh, for welcoming us and also for the kind introduction. Prabodh mentioned about how much FMCG is spending on R&D and how much pharma is spending and all. But sometimes I feel we get too bogged down with these numbers. It also depends on what you are trying to achieve through R&D. Now, when I started my career with Unilever, there was always this understanding with all the people working in R&D that there are short-term projects and there are long-term projects. And long-term projects never had anything specifically the consumer connectivity. This is something that I am going to work for the future. And someday, the findings of this will get converted to a technology and a useful consumer product. And that scenario, of course, had changed. I'll come back later on explaining that one. So comparing with pharma, of course, developing a new drug molecule versus introducing a new cosmetics, they are not just, you cannot compare the two and the cost involved in them. So, and always is this ROI or how much I'm investing. Apart from that, what we should assess is the success of R&D. Now, just give you an example, when I was working with General Electric is known for high-end technology, and we used to file a number of patents, probably the company which files the highest number of patents. But there was an issue during the 90s and all. What exactly this number of patents mean? Translating them into reality, which means do they really find application? There are several patents that are filed which may never see the end of the light of the tunnel. So then they developed a new criteria that you take a ratio of the patents which have really been successfully converted to either products or technology, and then divided by the number of patents that have been filed. In many cases, the numbers, the percentage was coming to be so dismal. So question is, all the patents for which you had invested the money, what happens to all of them? So amount being spent on R&D, yes, is a criteria, but should not be the sole criteria. What we should see the success.
Agree, Doc, absolutely. Very true. What you're saying, input is one important, but the outcome.
Yeah. And objectivity of research is extremely important, and many times that is where we keep off, wandering around and all. If you're very focused and you're very clear what you're trying to do, I think the rate of success will be more.
Doc, I think you have opened the new area for asking me the question, but I will come back to you. So now we'll move to.
And I did a lot of work when I was in Godrej also on the neuromarketing. Neuromarketing, now there are a lot of techniques. In fact, I don't know how many of you have seen, last week they announced the new magnetic resonance imaging machine, which has the highest resolution and actually can monitor the brain activity and thinking. This is the latest development. Now, why it is so important is, in marketing, always we start with saying that this is a consumer need and this is a consumer feedback, and everything gets tried to connect to the consumer. But what the neuro research shows is that when I show a product or something to a consumer, you assume that they are telling you the truth. I'm not undermining the consumer feedback as a process. But by and large, they want to be nice. So they might not come out with a very honest feedback. In fact, when I was in Colgate, one of the way used to do is a single-sided mirror. One side, the consumer will be sitting, and there is a single-sided mirror. I am sitting on the other side. So I can see the consumer, but consumer cannot see me. So there is a video camera that is focused on their face. So when I give a product to them, I am trained to look at their facial expression. And then we had a way of analyzing that facial expression that most of the times did not coincide with the feedback they were giving. Okay? So generally they tend to give nicer feedback than reality. So neuromarketing says your entire development depends on the consumer feedback. That itself may not be right. So what the neuromarketing does is you put the radio frequency coils around the head and look at the brain functioning. So you expose them to a product. You don't ask them anything. Looking at the MRI image, you know how they are appreciating or liking or disliking or hating or whatever it is of that product. That completely changes the concept. So as these new technologies keep coming up, I think the whole way we look at R&D is going to completely change.
Thank you, Doc. I think you have given many, many points, including the consumer insighting and how you can introduce the newer way of consumer insighting. And definitely the new technical, including AI, also can be very effective. But now we go to Dr. Kirti, and now with your career and now you're spending and good amount of time and in the health and wellness. So your opening statements.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to thank the entire organizing team, including Vicky, Hazel, and Akansha, for having me here, for allowing me to come here. And it has been a pleasure to have such a distinguished panel over here. Coming to the question of health and wellness category. So if you look at the stats today, in terms of the health and lifestyle disorders that we see today, about 38% of the population is having fatty liver. That is, in our country. That is astonishing. So when I go through the facts and figures, I'm like, oh my God, where are we going? About 100 million people today have diabetes, 135 million have pre-diabetes. And apart from that, thyroid is 48 million. So the numbers are astonishing. And to top the list, 220 million have hypertension. And that is uncontrolled. So, a lot depends on what we are having. So, when I say what we are having, food is thy medicine. That is what we have been hearing. But when we make the products, we have to tailor a lot of requirements together. And it goes without saying that it has to be well balanced in terms of the, safety and efficacy that we claim. Of course, product is always the core of R&D, and if you have a good product, you are, assuring the health of your consumers, you are giving them the right things, then of course there is a lot of, success over there. So now the thing is that so many brands out in the market and everybody is, making products. There are so many ingredients that have been spoken about. The most important thing in that space comes is the quality. So whenever you deliver a product, whenever you make a product, you have to be sure that your quality is consistent. So since the platform here is about contract manufacturing, so a lot of companies today, rely on contract manufacturing to get their products manufactured. But it's very important that the way you want your product to be delivered to your consumer, I would say the sanctity, the quality, everything is maintained when it reaches the consumer. And I would say that, Mr. Vilas really said that it's excellent to have such technologies in place to get feedbacks from the consumer, because most of the times the R&D innovations are also driven by the feedbacks that the market is having. So, I might think that the product is very close to my heart. I have made the best product out in the world. But how a consumer is perceiving it is very, very important. So, that paves way for innovation or renovation. So that's how, we structure thoughts, we gather the marketing insight, and then work on the product, seeing the unmet need. So why I touched base upon the lifestyle disorders was because, it starts from what we are eating today. And then we are, moving towards supplements. I believe every household today talks about supplements. But if you go 10 years back or 20 years back, India was not that much acclimatized to the concept of supplements. It's very common in US and Europe. But in India, we always thought that, we are having good food. But now we need a lot of supplements. We are depending on a lot of supplements because that's what our report says. Our diagnostic reports also say that we need it. Vitamin D deficiency, B12 deficiency has become so common. So I would say not just these aspects, that the quality of the ingredients, but how they are getting absorbed in their body is all about how R&D has to deliver the best innovation out there for the consumers and for the healthcare outcomes.
Thank you, and I think you are at the right time at right place, because the number what you were saying, that gives a good business opportunity. And definitely the R&D plays a very important role because of the efficacy, because people make a lot of claims, but how they are, and we'll come to the next, the next round. Now we have Punita with 27 years of experience and in the good brands. So you may make an opening statement, but I would like to have, because you have a global experience, and particularly considering the today's change of the research and development, and what India is also looking at the serious research and development, not only the jugaad. So if you can make some kind of opening.
Sure. So thanks, Dr. Prabodh. I would like to start off with acknowledging the efforts that the CMPL team has put in to kind of bring about this entire event and get us also as an opportunity to meet up with each other and, start cross-pollinating ideas. Honestly speaking, I'm going to step back to the basics. We have this bit of R&D chahiye kya, R&D karta hai kya. I mean, if we could take a pause for 30 seconds, what are we here in for? We are here to sell product. This is one of the things that I always mention to my colleagues. Consumers don't want empty tubes. They don't want the brush. They genuinely are not going to shop for seeing the ads per se. The core of this entire business in FMCG industry is the product. And therefore, if we are about creating a business by selling a product, a promise, a benefit, changing their lives, I think the way we approach at R&D makes a huge amount of difference. Almost around 27 years ago, when I started off in this industry, R&D was supposed to be one of the many functions that worked together to devise an end product. Today, life has changed. I think Dr. Shirati also touched it upon a little more gently. And I shall subsequently through the day would want to spend a little more energy, provided Dr. Prabodh gives me that time. We are supposed to be more closer to the consumer, because we really want to understand how do they like what we are giving to them, and much before exactly unko chahiye kya hai, you know, exactly what is it that they are missing, what is it that the current products that they are already aware of and available in the industry they are not very happy about. An area that we have never learned in our schools and colleges when we come out as academic experiences. This is what an industry teaches you, to try and get into understanding of the need gaps, which we very commonly call. Equally, I am a pharmacist, and I would like to apologize before I end up saying the next statement. I find it a lot more challenging to be a cosmetic scientist than a pharmacist, for the simple reason, you know, I mean, I don't think consumers go back to the doctor and saying, मैं soframycin नहीं लगाऊंगा because मुझे वो sticky लगता है. You know, I mean, they just do it because wound healing has to happen. But when it comes to the territory of cosmetics or personal care products, we are very, very finicky about, I don't genuinely like the fragrance or the color or the way that feels on my skin, or I'm not got the desired level of skin lightening. So I think we are at a fulcrum as a function who is responsible for meeting the aspirations of the consumer through a product. And therefore, the more we try and leverage the, you know, innovative technologies like artificial intelligence, which is going to bring in a lot of predictive ability of exactly what is the market trend, how do I convert that market trend into an opportunity for the future, I think that's what is going to shape up R&D to become far more different than what traditionally we thought R&D was. So to my team, they're aware of it. The ask is not about designing the best product with the most reliable quality and repeatability. It is about first defining what is the ask or the need from the consumer. And then, of course, we've got more than 100 years of experience across the industry today to translate that ask into a reliable, trustworthy, efficacious, sensorially exciting product. To me, the challenge today that lies for all of us as scientists is the beginning point. What is the next big disruptive idea or a need gap that I need to devise my product and ring fence the technologies? That's largely what I thought, you know, I would want to open the conversation with.
Thank you, Punita. I think 2-3 points what you have said are so important. One is the changing expectation of the consumer and how consumer behaves and how you satisfy them. It is not a medicine. I think this is the very important aspect, because for giving efficacious product, but if it is not sensorially matching with the consumer's expectation, of no use. So now coming to Amit ji, and I have said Amit is like Amir Khan of the industry, because whatever he has put is a trend setter. Let me please clap for him particularly, because whatever is the product which he has launched, he is going to tell are ahead of the time. Kumkumadi oil, ahead of 20 years back he has launched, and most of the very, very innovative product, Amit ji. And I told Vilas ji as Amitabh Bachchan, I am still figuring out about this too, I can't. So Amir Khan, the perfectionist. So sir, in your opening statement, you please make whatever you want, but tell us also, people do talk about ROI. Chinmay is sitting here as the MD of the company, she will always say how much investment. So how you see the R&D as a cost center, or it is the revenue model?
Namaskar. I have a question for the audience. Anybody who has been a part of a consumer study, और anybody जिसको कोई आपके ब्रांड ने आके आपको पूछा है कि आपको कौन से टाइप का प्रोडक्ट चाहिए, आपको क्या प्रॉब्लम है, कोई ब्रांड ने आपको कभी आके पूछा है? नहीं पूछा है. सो हमारी जो शुरुआत थी 2001 में, हम एक्चुअली लोगों के पास में गए, बिकॉज वी वर वेरी स्मॉल कंपनी, 2 co-founders, वेरी टाइनी थिंग. हम लोगों के पास में गए और लोगों को पूछा उनके कंसर्न क्या है. और हमारा जो वक्त था वो बहुत डायलेमा वाला वक्त था. वो डायलेमा ऐसा था, वहाँ पे बड़े बड़े MNCs जो बोल रहे थे कि आप चारकोल मत यूज़ करो, आप नेचुरल चीज़ें मत यूज़ करो, बहुत चीज़ें थी. एंड हम जो यहाँ पे जाके बोले कि हम एंटीथेसिस थे, मतलब एंटीथेसिस का मतलब ये होता है कि एक फोर्स है, बहुत बड़ी फोर्स है, और हम जाके बोले नहीं, हमको तो नेचुरल चाहिए, हमें तो अभी भी दादी माँ के नुस्खे चाहिए. तो अब वहाँ पे हम क्या करें? सो देन वन थॉट केम टू अस, which was, can we develop a product based on design thinking? Design thinking क्या है? It is basically empathizing with your customers or the user's problem. जो मैडम ने कहा, जो सर ने कहा, जब आप R&D करते हो, and R&D से rescue, she spoke that word, you know, किस तरह से आप रिजल्ट ला के दे सकते हो, that is what was the thought for us. And we started our journey from there. So हमारी जो शुरुआत है प्रबोध जी, is basically on research. हमारा कंपनी का बेस ही रिसर्च रहा है, बिकॉज हमारे पास में कंज्यूमर रिसर्च, न्यूरो स्टडी सर वी डू इट विद IIM अहमदाबाद विद आर डॉक्टर अरविंद साहब फॉर मेनी ईयर्स. हम एक्चुअली हमारे कस्टमर्स को प्रोडक्ट दिखाते हैं और उनका वो सेंस से हमें मालूम पड़ता है कि उनको कलर पसंद है नहीं पसंद है. पर कई बार वो स्टडी भी गलत होती है. जो मैं उनको बता रहा था कि हमने एक बार एक ज़माने में हमने लोगों को पूछा आपको कौन सा फ्रूट सबसे पसंद है, तो लोगों ने तो भी नेचुरल बोलते हैं मैंगो. हमने मैंगो सोप लॉन्च कर दी थिंकिंग दैट मैंगो सोप हैज़ विटामिन सी एंड सम अदर एसिड्स, एंड वी रियलाइज इट विल डू वेरी वेल. बहुत बड़ी क्वांटिटी में बनाया एंड वी सफर्ड. People love to eat mango, but they don't want to put mango on their skin. So there are certain those kind of thoughts. But coming back to my point, when we started, we had a big struggle. हमको जब कोई एक नॉन प्रिजर्वेटिव प्रोडक्ट बनाना था, हमने FDA में अप्रूवल के लिए यहाँ पे सबमिट किया टू पुट अप अ प्लांट इन साकिनाका. Our application was rejected in 2001. Why? Because there cannot be any product without preservative. We said we want to make a soap all from oils without a chelting agent. They said you can't make it. अब हम बोले हम क्या करें. द ओनली रेस्क्यू वी रियलाइज वॉज देर वॉज अ स्मॉल कंट्री इन फार ईस्ट थाईलैंड जहाँ पे ये चीज़ें अलाउड थी. सो वी मूव टू थाईलैंड इन 2001, सेट अप आर यूनिट देयर, टुक 11 years, शोड द वर्ल्ड. अच्छा हमारी शुरुआत भी ऐसी हुई बिकॉज देन वी सेड कि हमको तो अच्छे मार्केट में बेचना है. मोर प्रोफाउंड थाईलैंड, US, UK. So you had to make something which was made for the world. So our day zero, we were globally compliant, not only in Indian FDA, Thailand FDA, US FDA, Japan FDA. Today we are even Saudi FDA. Now why is it so? Because our base was research. So when you speak about ROI on research and development, I feel there are two kinds of ROI. One is how you see the company growing, overall growth. होता क्या है कि हर इंसान ना देखता है कि मैं प्रोडक्ट बनाऊंगा और उसका मुझे आज रिटर्न क्या मिलने वाला है. यू कांट डू इट लाइक दैट. यू हैव टू हैव अ ब्लेंडेड ROI, एंड द ब्लेंडेड ROI कैन बी मल्टीपल टाइम्स. बट इफ़ यू सी एक प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च किया नहीं चला, जैसे हमने एक फेस मास्क लॉन्च किया था, नहीं चला, कस्टमर रिजेक्टेड इट फॉर सम रीज़न. बट आई कांट से कि बिकॉज ऑफ दैट आई विल से कि मेरा ROI 0% है. बट देर आर मेनी अदर थिंग्स. So generally, the defect rate on any research is approximately 30%, I feel, because you would need to experiment. आप जितना experiment करोगे उतना आपका advantage. आप बोलोगे मेरा 2% है, means you are not taking chances, you are not taking risks. And this R&D is not that the customer reject, you are rejecting it. You are investing that money in any product, making any product, and then the efficacy part which you spoke about, then being compliant. So there are many things. Means I still struggle with Indian FDA, with INCI, because they don't accept those things. They can put any generic name. But when we go to US or even go to Australia, वहाँ पे like onion oil is still not recognized. So we struggle. We have our own struggles. But I think time has come, and with such good people on the panel, I'm sure they can put their force also through their companies to FDA. Thanks.
Thank you, Amit ji. And I was actually very surprised to hear that without preservative, it was not allowed. And today everybody is asking the clean label. Yeah. So can you pass the mic, please? So thank you. Coming back to Vilas sir, now how many are from the startup ecosystem? Can you raise the hand, please? We just want to know. Okay. And how many are from the industry, from R&D basically? All are there. Okay. So now Dr. Vilas is the, as I said, encyclopedia of the R&D, and Vilas sir has spent good amount of time in different companies. And I was jokingly saying to him, if you would have blocked 10,000 share of each company, you would not have actually required to. So it would have been a far better, because he has touched work for all the great companies. Dr. Vilas, because the young audience is there, and in the new startup ecosystem, people always consider the R&D is an expensive affair and it is very, very costly. You have worked on various different, very standard companies to the now startup. You are working with one of the startup companies, and they are also doing very good, Max Protein, as a director. So the question to you is that how you give a kind of guidance to the new generation about how you see the importance of the R&D and why it should be there in your organization as a culturally about the R&D. Some kind of your insights, Dr. Vilas.
Sometime back there was, am I audible? Yes. Yeah. There was an analysis done about a lot of Indian publications and how much of them are doing original work versus how many of them are doing like a Me Too. There's a new molecule that has come which got made a waves, and then suddenly you will see 10, 15 papers coming out, removing a methyl group, putting another group, and also that kind of incremental research. A lot of Indian research falls into that one. Now, if you look at the FMCG particularly, there are, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Kanu's model. There are three aspects to developing a new product. One is you have to deliver the basic features. You cannot, because consumers will not speak about it, but they assume. I'll give you the example of, say, a mobile phone. Today, if I'm buying a mobile phone, the camera is part of that. I never go and ask, does it have a camera? It's assumed, because these are basic features. Then the second section is incremental. Kitna mileage deta hai? The more it is better. So you continue to work on improving the mileage. As a car example. But the third one is where you take consumers by surprise. And that is the most difficult area. And if you hit success there, I think you have made it. I'll give you one live example. When I was in Colgate, toothpaste has to be white, right? That was a thing, and that was such a mindset. दूसरा toothpaste का दूसरा रंग हो ही नहीं सकता है. And suddenly came Close Up by Unilever, which was a transparent one. And young people got very fascinated with that. So it is breaking that mindset and taking consumers by surprise. So when first time the camera feature was introduced on a mobile, consumers had never asked for a camera on a mobile. They never even thought about it. So disruptive innovations take consumers by surprise, which means if you ask consumers what is your need, they will tell some needs. But they will never spell out some of these things because they would have never imagined it in their life. And suddenly you tell them this is also possible, it is completely sweeps the floor out of the thing. So those are the innovations where you need more investment, obviously. I'll give you another example. When I was working in Unilever, about how much money you want to spend in R&D also depends on which area you're working on. We had a big project called minor oils. So typically groundnut oil, coconut oil, these are the oils which are well known to everybody. But Lever at that point of time had were market leader in soap business, right? So soap ka basic economy depends on how effectively you buy oil and what oil you are using. So oil shortages come, suddenly prices go up and all these things happen. So in anticipation of all these problems, they said, let's have a project called minor oils. So we are looking at neem oil, karanja oil, rice bran oil, those days was not even heard about by anybody. So a lot of money was invested and people were asking the question, what is the ROI? Why are you working on these oils? Come 1986, there was a huge shortage of cocoa butter in the world. And they were not finding any substitute. But Lever had worked on a fat called sal fat, which is collected from the forest trees in Madhya Pradesh. And it has the same composition of fatty acid as a cocoa butter. But since they had already worked, they knew how to process it, they had the technology, they started processing sal fat, and they had a huge export business all of a sudden. Now, if they had not upfront invested the money, they would have never. So this whole thing that sal fat can be used in place of cocoa butter was a surprise even for the Swiss chocolate industry. And they were very happy that some company in India is able to provide this substitute. So even investment also depends on what area are you working on. And for example, when Total toothbrush was launched worldwide, it took almost 12 years to develop that toothbrush. We had a robot which costed about $7 million. It had a human teeth and there were cameras in all corners of the teeth and they were all, the images were collected and different brush designs were subjected to that and we were capturing the images that to which part of the brush is catching which part of the teeth. And we kept on improving the design so that the brush reaches all corners. Now, you want to have this kind of product development, obviously calls for a new investment. But then, the recovery ROI doesn't happen in 1 year for these kind of projects. There are many, many examples, live examples I can give you. So, it depends on what area you're working. If you want to focus on it, it calls for a higher investment, longer patience, longer time, but the returns are also very high.
Thank you, Doc. I think we have only 15 minutes left, but definitely the people who are interested, you can please connect with Doc after this panel discussion over the lunch. Now coming to Dr. Kirti, you have actually the business in the wellness, and today in the media we are talking about some kind of efficacy and the claim challenges, and this kind of environment where the de-influencers are making some kind of the bad thing about the product. In this uncertain world today, what is the role of the analytical testing, and how much we should be spending on the authentic testing and research? So can you give some guidance to the, because the startup ecosystem and in the business, how much your product should be backed with the science is very, very important when it comes out to the challenge. So some light on that.
Yeah, so thanks for that question. And like I said that, product is at the core of the entire scheme of things. So when we say analytical, see, we have been made to believe for a very long time that herbals have a lot of differences. There is a lot of quality change that might happen from batch to batch. Like we see a lot of, if you go to a supermarket and you see an amla juice or you see an aloe juice, you will see different shades over there. So, the inconsistency is natural, and natural is inconsistent. That was something that, a lot of people have believed for a very long time. But, when you go to the very deep, intricate knowledge of how herbals and Ayurveda works, it's very important to understand that these changes come. But there are a lot of phytoactives that are playing a major role in the efficacy. So, when we talk about ashwagandha, for example, that everybody is talking about after COVID also, it has become the de-stress ingredient all over the world because of its efficacy and the number of clinical trials that have been done to check the cortisol level reduction that ashwagandha does. But it does have a lot of other benefits. So how is that coming in? It is coming because of a particular vidhanolide content or vidaferin content, which a lot of companies today are monitoring. So even in the extract industry as an innovation, you will see that a lot of phytomarker fingerprinting and HPLC, everything has come into play. And good companies are investing a good amount of money in making sure that that kind of phytoactive principle is present in their product, because then only the efficacy will come. So I would say that is the starting point of your plant material or your ingredient selection. Because if that is consistent, if your markers are for having the range, because I cannot have, even if you buy a paracetamol today, which is 500 mg, that also has a range of the purity and the content, the assay content. Similarly, we can do the similar strategy for herbs, which we are doing. That has, the pharma industry has become very, very cognizant of the fact, and that's why we have phytopharmaceuticals today. So that knowledge, that research is going in, and I think all the people will agree that companies are investing that much money to make the ingredients consistent. So that is the first step. And then, once you have made that admixture, like today you see a lot of combinations out in the market. We know that FDC, like fixed dose, fixed drug combinations were banned by DCGI some time back. Like not all, but a couple of them which were not having, I would say, synergistic action, or some of them which were antagonist. So similar kind of research needs to go into the herbal industry as well. So there is drug-food interaction, there is drug-drug interaction. So all those studies need to be done very carefully, either by literature or by cytochrome P450 assays, wherein you can actually see whether these herbs are actually synergizing or not. Or these are some irrational combinations that are being made because of the hype around the ingredients. So that is, I would say, the starting point of it. And once you have all the dosage selection right, your phytochemical active principle is done correctly, then you move to some of the in vitro screenings wherein you check the efficacy. So that is the stage gate process, I would say, that the industry is following.
Actually,
Yeah.
Long
So
process.
exactly. So if you have at least, even if as a startup, if you feel that that much money we don't have, but you have access to so many extract vendors who can help you do that. So people are facilitating you with that research, and you will have a proof of concept. So you see, there is a I would say a race of claims today that everybody is saying 100%, 20%, 30%. Everything is numbers today. And I think that marketing is always like would like to do a lot of things, but then everything has to come back to R&D to support that, to back it up. So I would say that the research plays a very important role in ensuring that all the things that are being said, that are being promised to the consumer, are met with the product. So that is the depth of research through clinical, through in vivo, in vitro, that we have to assure that whatever we are telling the consumer is actually true. Whether it takes 3 months to do it, whether it takes 6 months to do it, that expectation we have to set very correctly. So that is what I would say there.
Thank you. I think you've given me some idea about the next question to the Punita, because Punita, you have spent time in the various companies, and also what you said in your opening statement about how the R&D has changed its own landscape. Now the question to you is, R&D plays an important role, as all the panelists have said. And like Bollywood, there are only 20% of the films get successful. 80% are fail, and same case with the new product development. And he talked about 30, but as per the statistics, it is 20% only. And for that, you have to take a lot of efforts. My question to you, always we consider as the R&D is expensive. Dr. Vilas has said you have to invest. But in this scenario, when there is no future for we don't know what will work. So what are your mantras for the startups and the business community based on your experience of 28 years? What do you say that how we should be doing in the research area, and what are the do's and what are the don'ts we should be following as per your convenience?
So I think I don't need to emphasize on the fact that the FMCG industry is changing absolutely massively. And I personally feel, the entire 3-year dunking that we had due to COVID has only kind of sped it up, Fortunately, what we also see around the world, and a lot more in our geography, is that the younger population has become a lot more discerning, a lot more open to trying out new products. I mean, gone are those days when there was only one, most probably, and I'm again saying this very, very boldly, there was only most probably 1 or 2 toothpaste to compete, for the presence of mind. There was at best 1 or 2 oils for hair. When it came to the fairness cream, there was largely one big brand till another competitor came about. That's not the situation today. If you were to take a head count, we have more than 20,000 startup brands. I mean, that's massive. The sheer width, the bandwidth that we are talking about in the industry is immense. And I would like to look at it in terms of the glass half empty, which is about there's so much more opportunity now for us to turn around the industry core rules. A toothpaste has to look a particular way. A cream is tarah se honi chahiye. Consumers actually are telling us they don't really want what your dadimas and grandfathers want. We want something which is very, very different. I think Dr. Shirati touched upon this, which is about the way we are engaging with the consumers and trying to map and get the insights. I think that is going to become a very, very big differentiating force. In fact, that's truly the disruption in our industry. So therefore, if I were to just kind of synthesize this as what are going to be maybe success enablers and not genuinely the do's and the don'ts, because every organization has their own vision and a strategy around that vision. I think the first important thing starts off is anticipating the market trends. Unless and until we start becoming proactive and start looking at what is the next big market trend or a business trend or a consumer trend that is going to be exciting, we will be always catching up in that particular game and most probably introducing products which will be me too, right? Differentiation is at the core of an FMCG brand's existence, right? And now when it comes to about differentiation, I think the most important element we've got to ask ourselves as business leaders, the question is the differentiation going to be only for the heck of it? Is it that I want to differentiate only so that I look different? Or is it going to be driving the value for the organization, value for the consumer, in fact, much before the value for the organization? And hence, apart from anticipating the market trends, we've got to also start adapting to the consumer's likes and dislikes. So if you look at this entire trend that is happening around us, which is about clean beauty, preservative-free, what Mr. Sarda spoke about, or things that fragrance-free, when I'm looking at personal care, or I'm sure many of you have heard and you would hear through the day for the next 2 days, there are trends like skinification of scalp. I mean, English, that is very easy to understand, but what the consumer is telling us is, I am now ready for you to come and tell me that only addressing my hair beauty is not going to be enough. If you can start looking at a little more deeper, a little more profound level of looking at what is the health of my scalp, and therefore the end output on the hair, then that is the reason, this industry which was called as beauty and personal care industry is now rechristening itself into beauty and wellness industry, right? So while it is not the overall body's health that the personal care industry is focusing on, but everything starts with a good skin, the health of the skin, the health of hair. And in fact, even pain, it is also your psycho health, you know. I mean, so you tend to perceive a pain a lot more when you're distressed than when you're in a pleasant frame of mind. I think the third important aspect is that we've got to start becoming good for the consumer, good for the planet, and good for the industry. Therefore, the sustainability is not going to be one of those puffery differentiators. That is what is going to ensure that the future is going to be bright for the organization. So I understand India is a lot more cost sensitive. Some of the sustainable technologies come to us at a price, but then taking forward from what Mr. Sarda said, you know, naturals are going to be a lot more sustainable than the bioengineered versions of them, or maybe just pure synthetic moieties which we don't even understand today what they're doing to the ecotoxicity and the ecosystem today that we are around. The last and the most important thing to my mind is about how are you changing consumers' life and winning their trust. The credibility drivers in terms of what will, you know, I think some of the panelists spoke about the consumers have become a lot more smarter than they were, say, around 20 years ago. आप उनको कुछ भी बोल के चले जा सकते थे कि आपकी ज़िंदगी 2 गुना बेहतर हो गई, आपकी स्किन 4 गुना ज़्यादा गोरी हो गई, दांत आपके इतने ज़्यादा चमक रहे हैं. But now they really want to see the results actually there on them as an experience, right? So I think being more realistic about what you're putting forward as a claims, which the consumers can start perceiving, and therefore in some of the organizations that I have worked in past, our ability to understand the consumer was governed by a tool called as, do you have the license to speak? You know, we used to call something called as consumer license. If you do not know your consumer, however great you are on your science, you're not going to connect, right? So the credibility enhancement happens not just because my clinical testing report gives me the confidence that the product is doing these wonders, but it also happens when the consumer is able to actually experience it in their day-to-day life. And unless and until as an R&D scientist, we ensure both are done and not either or, we are not going to be cutting eyes for these intelligent young consumers that are opening up floodgates for us. I mean, look at the kind of innovative products. I just don't think, you know, anyone can take a head count of the number of skincare products that are there today in India. I mean, they're amazing. I mean, who thought about pre-swim oil or a post-swim sunscreen, right? So consumers are very open. They're actually giving to us newer benefit spaces, newer areas of trying out products, textures, experiences. It is for us as an industry to start waking up, recognizing that we'll have to become more honest. And most probably, I think one thing that we should not do, which I will also synthesize from what I've heard from the esteemed panel over here, is please stop shortchanging. Please do not look at some of these benefits in the short term. Having worked in the industry for 27 years across work hierarchies, even when I was a beginner, young at heart, and wanting to make a change, you know, you tend to get a little bit disappointed when the business leader says, "Ek saal mein paisa banega kya?" You know, to your thing that you said. I think this is an area of investing for the future if you want the future to change. You cannot start truncating and evaluating, did the product work or not? Did the idea work or not? Or did the mix work or not work? Within 6 months. You know, we are a massive population in the country, 140 crores. I mean, and therefore there lies the strength. You know, every business will proliferate. We're not competing against each other anymore. Gone are those wars. I'm also an ex-Unilever. Gone are those days of wars between Unilever and Procter & Gamble, L'Oreal and Unilever and so and so. I think we are all competing with each other to win the war with the consumer. It is consumer genuinely, for the first very time, now the king and not the proverbial consumer is the boss, right?
I think
they can discard our products at a drop of a hat without my competition saying anything against me. So it is about how real we are. It is about how sustainable my solution is. And most importantly, how preemptive we are. The world is already available for us to conquer, whether as a D2C or a brick or mortar brand. Opportunity immense from the massive country that we have. And we are most probably the youngest nation in the world, average age 28, 29. So I do not see the importance of FMCG ever getting diluted for the next 50 years. Beyond that, dekhenge.
थैंक यू आई थिंक द वे यू वेर स्पीकिंग एक बार जोर से तालियां यार बहुत अच्छा ज्ञान दिया है so we have actually taken the photograph and the video shooting and it will be uploaded on the YouTube so whatever you said it will be useful to everyone and I was really surprised the way you have actually concluded so my job is very easy now because you have given all the points Amit ji the in short because now we have very limited time यार विलास जी ने बताया कि R&D के लिए खर्चा करना पड़ेगा आपको एंड यू हैव टू स्पेंड टाइम मनी एंड एनर्जी टू गेट द गेन बट आई वाज हियरिंग द वन ऑफ द फाउंडर्स इंटरव्यू एंड ही सेड दैट R&D इज अ माइंडसेट इट इज नॉट अबाउट द डिपार्टमेंट एवरी डिपार्टमेंट नीड टू हैव R&D माइंडसेट तो फ्रूगल इनोवेशन नाम का एक कंसेप्ट होता है तो अमित जी अगर आप बता पाएंगे कि हाउ कम खर्चे में हम लोग रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट कर सकते हैं विदाउट टेस्ट ट्यूब्स एंड द लेबोरेटरीज विथ अस
So I'll give you my background. I am an engineering dropout. So my chemistry was only till 12th standard.
ये सब सक्सेसफुल लोग ड्रॉप
नहीं 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 सर ना लेट मी कंप्लीट तो हमारा क्या है किसी व्हाट इज स्किन एंड हेयर यू नो सो ठीक है स्किन इज द लार्जेस्ट ऑर्गन बट ऑल द प्रोडक्ट्स विच वर्क ऑन स्किन हैज़ वन कॉमन एलिमेंट विच इज हाइड्रोजन जस्ट फॉर टेक्निकलिटी पर्पस बीट हाइड्रोकार्बन बीट अल्कलाई और बीट योर एसिड्स राइट स्किन के ऊपर हम एच लगा रहे कुछ कर रहे हैं So when you do this, when you understand this, that how to work with hydrogen in the most frugal way is where the opportunity lies. Now one thing very important is, like we were just discussing, we have been selling rosemary for technically for last 20 years. Today it's a big hit and we are also, you know, bearing the fruits of it. But one thing important is your research can be ingredient based, but most important it has to be process based. You know, Kirti ji just appreciated our carrier oils. So you can also make a castor carrier oil, you can also make a jojoba oil, but the process is the way you do it. I think that is where, sir, you need to focus. And you rightly said, R&D is a mindset. It is never about having only just the people. I think everybody in the company has to be in. And there are some people I can see in the audience who have been worked with us, and I think they can also say that we have always thought of, you know, consumer, the concerns. So that is what I will conclude.
अमित जी मैं आपको बताता हूँ कि हमारे इंडियन लोगों को R&D का माइंडसेट जो है ना हमारे घर में हमारी दादी जो कल का जो खाना होता है ना बॉस अच्छी डिश बना के नेक्स्ट डे हमें खिलाती है तो ये वेस्टर्न लोगों ने हमें सिखाना नहीं चाहिए कि हाउ टू डू द सस्टेनेबल लाइफस्टाइल बिकॉज हमारे इसमें फ्रूगल इनोवेशन एंड सस्टेनेबल इनोवेशन तो पार्ट एंड पार्सल ऑफ आवर लाइफ है हमारे घर में वेस्ट कुछ नहीं होता है देयर इज़ नो वेस्ट अभी तो होने लगा है बट एक्चुअली एज पर द आवर now we will go to the lucky 3 people who can have a daring to ask the question to this panel lucky 3 and if they like the question they will answer and we will also get an award I think where is the team of the organizers what is the 2 days 2 night free somewhere in the Bangkok or US I leave it to the Vicky sir हाँ तो नहीं सर आपके लिए नहीं हाँ I think Chinmay quick question and quick answer fastest finger I will go there yes
Thank you, Dr. Prabodh, for excellent moderation, and thank you, panelists, for a wonderful, session. I have actually 2 questions. I know you have asked for 3 lucky pair, but I have not asked the number of questions. So, 2 questions. Number 1 is related to the technology part which you mentioned, but the main challenge for the industry is identification, especially plant-based industry, is identification of adulterations. Because in the plant-based industry, the look-alike material comes and there is a limited part, and R&D, how much is being focused on development of the technology. That's one part. And the second question to Dr. Vilas is, there has been also cases wherein from the consumer perspective, companies are giving, toolkits for identification of genuine material, like Country Delight giving the, toolkit, or even the meat deterioration, sensors, etc. But those things are not successful. I mean, people are not able to, perceive these things. So what is the reason for, although company made a genuine effort to, ask consumer to test by themselves to, identify if the product is genuine. So, but they have not been successful. So what is the reason for that?
thank you Chinmay Vilas ji
Like in nutrition, we also say that no diet is sustainable. You make promises, weight loss, fat loss, whatever it is, but they are never sustainable. So any of the testing, for example, take urea detection in milk. Now, I am not going to sit with a toolkit every day when I get the milk packet and test it out. That's never going to be. I think the value really lies in the building the trust with your brand. If I say that this brand, like he mentioned about going through the whole testing of phytochemicals and making sure that there's synergy, using HPLC and all, and with all this, finally you build a brand. And I think trusting them, that is the whole strength of the brand. I think these toolkits and all, I cannot take a toolkit and check my spices, check my milk and check my oil. That's never going to happen. It's never going to be sustainable. So build a brand which consumers can trust.
Very well said, Dr. Vilas. Thank you. Anybody?
Here.
Then we'll confirm whether you are qualified to have that Bangkok trip. Yeah, we have.
Yes. It was a wonderful discussion from the panelists and also moderation. My question is, from the R&D perspective, how the industry is aligned for the future implementation of AI or ML, where everybody is going, how the industry is focused on that, and what are the
Future
products,
ready,
future
basically.
ready, how we are ready for tomorrow, because world is focusing on that, and how it has been planned, how India we are going ahead.
All our panelists are future ready. Whom you want to select?
Anything, whoever is, most of them are
जिसके हाथ
stalwarts.
में mic.
Most are stalwarts. Anybody can take and have their
Amit?
opinions.
And you can add also.
I don't know. So I'll just tell you what we do. So ML is something which we work on Azure. So simple thing, sir. आप जो भी product बेचते हो, उसके जो भी आपके reviews है, plus आपके reports है. So what is the product is going to do? What is that efficacy you are claiming? What you are going to deliver? What is the experience you want? And even people rate you at on multiple platforms. Plus, when you connect with being a D2C brand, we get a lot of sensory information about our consumer. We keep on feeding it in our ML system, where any product, how it is performing in a certain time, on a certain weather, in a certain geography, ये हमें study करना पड़ता है. So it is in India, you have multiple weathers. Mumbai is different. Chennai never has winter. It only has 1 or 2 days winter. So how my sandalwood soap is working there. So everything which works on your skin, whatever feedback you keep on getting from your customers, which is a critical feedback, and these are in thousands and lakhs, we keep on putting in our system, where the system keeps on reading and telling us कि is the product really still relevant. So I think relevancy is very important. आपका product शायद 20 साल पहले बना होगा, पर अगर आज वो relevant नहीं है, तो you might have a struggle. And that is where research and development has to use ML, which is on a continuous basis. AI usage, if somebody is doing it, AI, we use it for some different work, but ML is something which is, I think, core for any research.
Yeah. Punita.
So, I don't know. Is it audible?
Yeah.
Right. So I think, AI and machine learning is a vast, but daily it is evolving to a very different level. And each organization is taking a slice of these evolution, to what is right now fitting. But trust me, more than 90% of the organizations are either inquisitive about it or have started planning for the simple reason, which is again, survival of the fittest. There is no ways anyone is now in a disputive stage thinking ki, I don't think humko AI se kuch karna hai. Everyone has put their efforts in terms of trying and seeing is how do I make it relevant for my organization, right? So there are areas where people are investing in terms of saying is instead of going with such massive population that we are sitting, is there a way that the algorithms can be drafted to try and understand consumer trends? Can we use AI to make about a predictive relationship in terms of what is going to kick as a business opportunity, given that we know consumers asks, wants, and like he said, we can keep feeding in back. So it is not about stopping at consumer feedback, jo hame pichle products mein aaya hai, but how do I deploy that intelligence to say, therefore future mein kya rahega? There are people who are using a lot of data analytics to start, understanding how do I kind of plan my distribution network. So every function in an organization, and not genuinely only the R&D, is trying to take a bit and piece or a slice of this massive opportunity from artificial intelligence, AI. In fact, communication has started getting a lot of impressive hits with ChatGPT. I mean, you don't really need now massive amount of creative ad agency guys. The ChatGPT actually comes out with a lot of interesting claims there. So every element of your product mix that you're offering to the consumer has got a touch base with the AI. Trust me, more than 90% of the organization, whether brick and mortar, big, massive giants, or Indian FMCGs, or even D2C brands, they're deploying it already. I don't think we know a single organization who is not interested or inquisitive upon.
Thank you. I thought that R&D people are very shy and they don't open up, but here they are the more marketing than the R&D. What I realize, my panelists. Any last? Yeah, the last question. I will come to you. The last, yeah, you only, sir. Can you pass the mic, please? And this will be the last question.
Hello. Actually, this is very small questions regarding the transparency. What we hear last week for the health drinks, Horlicks and Complan. Why that people are not transparent to customer? So that is my question. Each and every brand should be focused on the transparency to a customer.
What is the question?
So why this is happening? Because why they are not earlier? Why they are not transparent to customer? Why they are ingredients? They are not showing the sugar. That's why they are out of this from health drink to a non-health drink.
Okay, I will only answer this question because see what happened. It's very important. I am not part of any of the company what you have mentioned, so there is no conflict of interest. But as a food technologist, whenever such question comes in a media, particularly in your WhatsApp group of your relatives, some question comes and then really you have to really answer it scientifically. Let me tell you, friend, as per the labeling regulation of FSSAI, it demands to give the ingredient listing on descending order. It was always there. It was always there. And the quantity of sugar was also mentioned there. So there is nothing like it was not transparent. It was very transparent. And now the question is, how much is relevant and how much is enough or how much is higher? That question is a different question and that is up to the taste and the acceptance. So it was always transparent. I'm not taking a side of any company, but yes, if you see their label before and after, all the information is given. Most of the time, we get misled by the media. And the people who give the information, you please ask what is their qualification. You are a pharmacist. Doc has double PhD. They have spent their life in the product. But the problem is that they don't come and defend because you are controlled, governed with some kind of code of conduct. Somebody can say anything. I'm not complaining, but I'm saying the time has come now. The scientists also need to speak up. Otherwise, the entire industry will get collapsed.
I will just put another spin to this. The whole thing is today, knowledge is democratized. We all agree to that. I can take a word and search it on this thing. So coming to transparency, the ingredients are already mentioned on it. Now question is, today if the doctors give, I would even go to the extent that when I get a medicine from a doctor, the first thing I do is go to Google, search for it, what is the content, what are the side effects. Even doctors may not know about this. So I think consumer being more and more aware that the product contains so much of sugar is already on the label. I don't think I should get so influenced by the advertisements and communications that I should, so it's high time that we start also taking responsibility for what we are doing.
Thank you, Dr. Vilas. I think is the time up. I got 2-3 reminders and they have cancelled our Bangkok trip because we have taken extra time. So sorry guys, but those who have asked the question, please stand up. I have a gift for you. Please stand up. Those who have asked the question, really thank you for you. And please clap यार, जोर से clap करो, बहुत अच्छा बात किया है. Thank you panel. I will not summarize because let everybody synthesize. As Dr. Vilas said, we are also having a intelligence, not artificial but natural, and we should use our natural intelligence. Problem हमारा क्या हुआ है ना, हम लोग artificial intelligence के पीछे लग के हमारा नेचुरल इंटेलिजेंस भूल गए और हम लोग बेसिक ही भूल गए. और मैं बताता हूँ, किसी को भी अपना ही व्हाट्सएप पे आज का एक आप प्रण कर लो, प्रॉमिस कर लो कि हम कोई भी फॉरवर्ड विदाउट ऑथेंटिकेशन नहीं करेंगे. हमारे इंडस्ट्री को बचाना पड़ेगा, फूड हो, न्यूट्रोसिटिकल हो या हमारी कॉस्मेटिक इंडस्ट्री हो, क्योंकि crores of people are dependent on this industry and we don't want to collapse this ecosystem and industry and then India. Very important. Thank you for patient hearing. जोर से एक बार फिर से तालियां बजाएंगे. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, can we have a huge round of applause to this eminent panelist on stage? I must say that was indeed a thought-provoking session. So many inputs, so many pointers to take back and reflect on. Once again, a very, very big thank you. We have a small token of appreciation for each of you, requesting our moderator, Dr. Prabodh, to please do the honors. We would like to start with Mr. Vilas Shirhati. Dr. Vilas Shirhati. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause? Punita Kalro. I can't hear the claps. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Kriti Soni. Amit Sardao. Requesting Punita if you can present it to our moderator, Dr. Prabodh. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for them, please. Would you like to say something?
So I'm extremely grateful, and I think it's a privilege to be part of a panel where Dr. Prabodh, he's moderating. But I must also say what went behind this discussion, and there is a huge amount of natural intelligence that you transferred into each one of us. We are very proud to be a part of your panel. Thank you so much, Dr. Prabodh.
Yes, of course, a group photograph. We need to capture this moment. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Prabodh and our esteemed panelists. Once again, a huge round of applause for them, please. Ladies and gentlemen, please note we will begin our next panel discussion in the next 10 minutes. Topic being beauty and personal care, crafting the future, strategies for building a beauty and personal care brand in India, with a focus on innovation, consumer needs, packaging strategy, and quality testing. This session will be moderated by Nikita Rustagi, Regional Director, Sonta Degre.